Hello, everyone. Um, we are here for a sort of not update because I'm kind of in the same place as I was last week, in the sense that I was very locked in different areas of my life and creatively, but in terms of the artist way, kind of been locked out, but not really. Like, I'm trying my best. But I've just been in my writing bag. I've been writing more. I've been reading more. I've just been doing a lot of other things that are also just preparing for travel and stuff like that. So, kind of been all over the place, but still doing my morning pages. I think I did like 5 out of 7 last week. And then theoretically, I didn't go on my artist date, but I still do spend a lot of time by myself and nourish myself in different ways. So there's that. In these last few weeks, I will make a concerted effort to try to build that in. But I am my own worst enemy, like I always say. But I'll do a quick rundown of this week's reading and what we were focused on. This week, or this past week, week 9, was recovering a sense of compassion. This week finds us facing the internal blocks to creativity. It may be tempting to abandon ship at this point. Don't. We will explore and acknowledge the emotional difficulties that beset us in the past as we made creative efforts. We will undertake healing the shame of past failures. We will gain compassion as we reparent the frightened artist child who yearns for creative accomplishment. We will learn tools to dismantle emotional blocks and support renewed risk. So, I feel like this kind of ties into a lot of themes that we talked about in previous weeks. And it's really overcoming fear and having enthusiasm and compassion for ourselves when we do feel blocked and kind of like working through that. And then a section that I really liked was creative U-turns. So it's like when you're faced with an opportunity, that sense of fear that overcomes you of, oh, maybe this won't work out. Should I even go forward with this? And then you kind of take a U-turn and shut yourself off from that opportunity because of fear and shame of trying it out, or even like the fear of shame if it doesn't work out. So, like, for some examples here that Julia talked about, a screenwriter has an agent interested in wrapping a script with just a few changes. He doesn't make the changes. A painter is invited into a group show, his first, but picks a fight with the gallery owner. And then one last example, a poet reads some poems to very good public reception at a neighborhood open mic. Instead of continuing at this level and gaining strength, the poet enters a slam, a sort of boxing match for poets judged by non-poets, loses, and stops reading publicly altogether. So throughout those different situations, it's like when you're faced with an opportunity or just something that doesn't work out for you in your journey, it's like a creative person takes a U-turn and they like don't pursue it anymore because of that experience or that fear. So it's really like trying to work through it and extend ourselves some sympathy, because it is quite fearful and it takes a lot of courage to take that first step into the direction that you want to. So, yeah, just being compassionate with yourself is most important in these situations. And then also asking for help. I think like we're very solitude creatures, or like I'm definitely someone who kind of just retreats into herself and like kind of deals with my own problems on my own, and like asking for help, especially when it comes to my own creative like journey, is kind of hard for me. So I've always been working on that, and I think like this is a good reminder to try to work on that. And then ways, or this last section here was kind of a method of blasting through blocks. So it's like if we feel blocked, here's a list of things to ask yourself. So it's like you should list any resentments that you have with the project, ask or list any fears about the projected piece of work or anyone connected to it. It doesn't matter how dumb it is, just list those kind of fears and Ask yourself if that's all, and then ask yourself what you stand to gain but not by not doing the work. So then at the end, you make the deal and say, okay, creative force, you take care of the quality, I'll take care of the quantity. So then after you write out this whole thing, you sign the deal, and it's kind of like a contract to be a good reminder of like, okay, this is how I can blast through this block. And Julia claims that this is a very powerful exercise. So if and when honestly I get to that point of being like, I don't know if I can do this, or I'm feeling very blocked right now, I will go back to this chapter. Yeah, there were some interesting tasks this week, kind of more lists of like creative goals and visualization, but I did not do any of those because, as I said, I was very locked into writing. Like, that was most of my time. Like, most of my week, this past week, was literally just writing and then reading and just having a great time. But the one task that I did complete was reading my morning pages and then like highlighting standout lines, one to highlight insights and another to highlight actions needed. And then there were some questions about what you've been consistently complaining about, what you've procrastinated on, what have you allowed yourself to change or accept. And then, yeah, I thought reading my pages like throughout the last 8 weeks at that point, which is really wild to think about, was really cool kind of to see my progression in my stream of consciousness thought in the mornings, and then also the slight shifts in attitude changes. You can really see it as you like zoom out and revisit those pages and see how far you've come. For example, I wrote a lot about writing, or like, yeah, like manuscript ideas, poem ideas, story ideas that I had, and then I ended up pursuing some of those, which was really cool. And then some complaints. I kind of just like complained about small, minute things, and then I guess other like life things that I had always wanted to kind of divulge in. And like in the morning it feels very unguarded and like a safe space for me to talk about those things. I'm not much of a morning person, so like these pages are kind of, or they have been, a good start to my day usually. So we only have basically 3 more weeks of these, and hopefully it's like continuing that practice of doing the morning pages is, really helpful and what people want to see. So that's super cool too. And yeah, that was basically my week. I would say it was pretty decent, besides me skipping out on some morning pages and also the artist date. But I will do my best to go back to that. Um, yeah, same questions. It's like, do you have any, or did you experience any synchronicity, and then any other issues? Um, I probably should have thought about this before I turned on the camera. I actually don't know if I've experienced synchronicity this week. I'm sure I have, actually. I really can't think of it. Well, mm, mm. Well, I watched the, no, well, I guess yesterday was the start of a new week, but I watched The Starling Girl, which is like, it's about this girl named Jem, and she's like 17, and she grew up in this rigid, conservative Christian fundamentalist community in Kentucky, and she feels very repressed. And then she like is very drawn to this um, magnetic youth pastor who returns to the community after his Puerto Rico mission trip. And like they start a relationship, but it's really bad because she's 17 and he's married and 28, I think. So very, very bad there. But I watched it last night, and I felt very, connected with Jem, and especially like around that age, feeling misunderstood and feeling like it's, shameful to feel your feelings and stuff like that. So I can imagine for people who grew up in more like conservative um, religious backgrounds like that can also feel very connected to her and her story, and just seeking out the nearest and the first connection really with someone who presents themselves as understanding of you. But it's really gross because you know what it's like. It's like an older man takes advantage of a younger girl. And it's like, I've thankfully never been in that situation, but I know so many women and just so many young people are in that kind of situation of like the older younger dynamic. Doesn't even matter what the gender is. So it's like, yeah, I was kind of scared throughout the course of the movie, no spoilers, but I was very satisfied with the ending and I thought it was very fitting for her. And I just hope that Jem is happy. So I don't even know if that's a synchronicity, but that is like a standout film that I watched this week. I also watched Sinners, and that was like so good too. I have so many thoughts about that, but like it's like such a good commentary and homage to blues and Southern Black culture, and also very complex with tying in themes of vampirism, colonialism, appropriation versus appreciation, and assimilation, and how the villain is like, he is a monster because he's a vampire, but when he tries to like assimilate the black folk in the Delta Mississippi, like that region, it's like he kind of becomes his own oppressor because he comes from an Irish background, and Irish history is just filled with violence and colonization too. But yeah, and it's like Remick is a monster, and he's a monster by nature. He's a vampire, or I guess like it's unnatural because he's a vampire. But like there are characters in the film who he like makes vampire. This isn't a spoiler because it makes sense. There are characters in the film where they literally are like clan members. So it's that question too of who's the real monster, and even, or it's, yeah, it's like humanity versus monsters too, the complexity and all that. It's such a good film. I recommend watching that as well. It's been out for a couple weeks now, almost a month at this point, so it's been really good. And yeah, it's just been such a great season of movies and film and everything else. So I've been very excited and very locked in that sense, and being very inspired. So yeah, this next week will be kind of wild for me, but I will do my best to keep up with things and also update when I'm back next week. And yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, hope y'all are staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you next week. Bye.